Alright, so we are back again. Sorrow Eternal. We are here with Hell22 and myself, Mermaider, and we have our guest, Chester, with us again.
As always.
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm considered a guest anymore.
He basically lives here.
Yeah, I'm that guy on the couch.
So today we're going to be talking about some of the previous posts that we have had up this past week. We've done Sons of Seasons, Opeth, Suidakra, Insomnium, and Helevorn. So Hell22, you did Helevorn for us.
Well, Helevorn, for those who don't know, I'm brand new to this band. They're from Spain. They fall into that death doom genre. I would kind of throw them in the same boat as Swallow the Sun or Draconian. And I think the biggest key to the album to point out is that you're not going to find anything new here. You're not going to find anything you've never heard before. It's just straight up death doom, just done well. It's done well, nothing innovative, nothing mind-blowing, but there's something to be said about just doing what you do and doing it well.
Now, Helevorn, was this their first album? Or
no, this is actually their third official release, but I believe it's their second full-length album.
Okay.
But their first major label one. The name of the album is Forthcoming Displeasures. Definitely one to check out.
Okay.
So, Mermaider, this week you did a great review for the Camelot side project, Sons of Seasons.
Yep, it's actually the side project of the keyboardist from Camelot, and a lot of it is very similar to Camelot. It's incredible, an incredible album. There was a song on there, Bubonic Waltz was one of my favorite. It had tons of different instruments in it. It went from acoustic guitars in the beginning, then they later came in with a lot of distorted guitars. They went back and forth between piano solos. They even had an organ part in it, it kind of caught me by surprise. But it was interesting the way they incorporated everything into it, just this one song, and I was impressed. They had another song with Simone Simons, which is the lead singer of Epica. She was featured in Sanctuary, the song Sanctuary. So definitely check that out.
She's also been on a Camelot album in the past. She was on the Black Halo, as I recall.
Yep, she's been featured a lot on different bands. They also added a ballad at the end of the album called Yesteryear, which was awesome. It really it was just piano and vocals the whole time. Beautiful song. Definitely a great way to end the album. Overall, definitely an album that you want to check out. Now you also did another one this past week. Suidakra, right?
Yeah, Suidakra, and that's a band that I really wish more people would know about. They've had countless albums out there. They're from Germany, but they play Celtic folk metal. And I think this new album, it's the Book of Douth, I think this one could be the one that really gets them noticed. It's a concept album, but I don't really think concept really, explains it well. It's taken from Celtic folklore about these demonic beings called the Fomor, and how they just destruction upon the earth. They're locked into this book, but sometime in the future, there's an archaeological dig, and a student finds the book, and as he opens it, it unleashes this hell upon the earth. It's just great Celtic metal. There are parts that you're going to be bobbing your head to, but there's also parts that are going to make you want to dance. It's almost intimidating, because they just such a wide array, and the folk stylings in there, a lot of back and forth between the softer acoustic and the heavier stuff. But definitely a band you should check out.
How are the vocals on there?
There's a lot of the harsh screaming is kind of what they that's their bread and butter.
Okay.
But there's also some lighter female vocals on certain parts, and not too much clean singing, a little chanting in there. But for the most part, they're definitely harsh.
Are their songs lengthy?
The songs are not really lengthy. Usually they flow in that kind of 4 to 6 minute range, which is just enough to really get you going. My only beef with the album was that it's only 10 tracks, and there are a couple songs in there that are kind of the shorter interludes. So you're really not getting a really long album, which I really could have used 2 or 3 more songs to really tell the story.
Yeah.
But definitely one to check out, and definitely go to their site. Read up on the lyrical content, because it really tells a great ancient story. I definitely think is worth reading. So Chester is back with us as always. For those of you who have followed us for the last couple of weeks in doing this, we give Chester an album every week that he has to listen to, and we get his outsider's opinion on this stuff. Mermaider, what did we have Chester listen to this week?
We had him do the new Eluveitie album.
Oh, so the new Eluveitie album. That's an interesting one. Very different from what we've given you before. So take it away, Chester. What do you got to say?
Well, I listened to the album. You know, I wish I could have devoted more time to actually listening to it, because I started to listen to it, and when I got into it, it's really a I want to say it's really a more, not so much lyrical, which was a nice difference from, like, say, Blind Guardian or Nightwish, thank you, that you had me listen to before, because they're very vocal driven, as well as Blind Guardian is also musically driven as well, but not as so much as this band. I felt like literally I walked into a scene of Braveheart with the opening introduction of the song, the first one, and then Growling. I was introduced to Growling.
Oh, that's right. We've never really taken you down that road before.
I mean, I've heard Growling before from other bands, but it wasn't as strong. I don't feel like it wasn't as overpowering in this album as I've heard in past albums that I've been introduced to.
Yep.
Draconian was one that I was listening to on your Zune, and that was a little bit,
a little more drastic.
A little bit more drastic with the Growling.
He's got it deeper, yeah.
But it was nice, the female vocals were nice. I liked all the instruments, the wind instruments they used, the string instruments, the guitar, obviously. It was a good album. I could definitely find myself listening to it, even with the Growling. I didn't feel deterred from it, Yeah. I felt like it was a nice, solid, and musically driven.
And I'll tell you, music like this is kind of what got me into Growling, because I at first wasn't into Growling either, and or any of the crazy screaming, and I was really into power metal, and I just liked more of the clean vocals, whether it was male or female, but I was really turned off by Growling, and when I started listening to bands like them and even like Trivium, who kind of mix it up a little more, I ended up putting up with the Growling just because I liked the rest of it so much. And then by doing that, it actually grew on to me to where now I prefer Growling.
I would say the best part about Eluveitie, especially as you're being introduced to Growling, is that the music tends to be more up-tempo, upbeat, almost like all the songs are happy, even though the lyrics might not reflect that, but the songs are definitely upbeat. So the Growling is this great contrast to this upbeat music with the flutes and the pipes and the strings and the Hurdy,
yeah.
Otherwise known as the wheel fiddle.
Huh.
I was actually going to say that is the Growling and the music almost complement one another.
Yeah.
Which is why it was acceptable for me, for someone who doesn't actually listen to that. I didn't find it as deterring, let me skip this track.
Yeah, they play well off of each other instead of, one overpowering the other. Instrumentation, though, you liked, we've seen them live a couple times.
Yep.
They have flutes, bagpipes, the hurdy-gurdy, violin. They have an acoustic guitar, a lute. You name all these ethnic instruments, and they pack it all into one. Yeah. The stage is packed with people, but they make it work.
Yeah, it was definitely great. I really enjoyed the music, and the girl sings in one of the tracks, and she even sings with the Growling, which I didn't think wasn't bad. I didn't the only problem I really have with Growling is I have a extreme problem understanding what they're saying. And I know what they're saying after a while, but at first it's sort of I'm trying to really strain to hear what he's pitching out to me, and where someone who's singing softly or Nightwish or Blind Guardian, I had better understanding of what they're trying to tell me.
And that makes sense coming from you, especially because you're a rapper, you're more into lyrics. So when you go to listen to music, you're more expecting to hear words you can understand in music, and or from what your genre is about. Everything's pretty clear.
Coming from a hip hop background, mainly, that's we don't play instruments. All we do is play with words.
Right.
So when you listen to that, like you said, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the lyrics, and I'm looking to listen to the story they're telling. And unfortunately, when they're, I can't hear it,
Right. The way I always looked at it, the first time I saw Swallow the Sun was the first time I'd ever heard them. couldn't understand a word he said live. But listening to the album, listening to it again, getting into Opeth and stuff like that, you kind of look at growling almost like it's a foreign accent, where you don't quite make out the words the first time, but the more you hear it, the more you're just going to be able to hear it all. I mean, I can pop in, a death metal album now and, repeat to you every word the guy said, because you get used to how it's going to sound, and each vocalist kind of has a unique style. And the guy in Eluveitie is no different. He has definitely a very unique delivery style.
Yeah.
But he does growling, but he also does kind of just raspy singing. Thousandfold is a good example of that, because you can really understand him, but he kind of does it in that raspy kind of way.
Thousandfold is that was one of my favorite songs on that album.
Yeah, sure. And that's a powerful song. That's definitely one that, and it just makes you feel good. I don't know what it is about that song, but it just makes you feel good.
It makes you want to dance, honestly.
It really does. And again, seeing them live, there are definitely people doing some Irish step dancing in the audience there. You would be amazed.
Yeah, I remember that.
The
mosh pit.
Yep, the mosh pit.
It actually turned into more of like a
dance pit.
Dance pit, halfway through the song.
Dance.
Yep. Yeah, it went back
Seriously,
and forth.
and so much of that is in the instruments and the way they're played. And I mean, they're a Swiss band, but
that's what I found so interesting. Is like you told me when you were like, you got to check this band out. This is the band you're getting. They're a Swiss folk metal band, and I'm listening to it, and they sound Celtic. Mm-hmm. They sound like I thought I was in Scotland or Ireland when I was listening to it. I'm like, this is really awesome. And the fact that they use all those instruments and they make them work, even with the growling, and, the woman's vocals are almost sound Celtic.
Yep. And they have an acoustic album, and on the acoustic album they actually do songs where the female vocalist sings in the Gaulish language, which I can't understand a word of it. Obviously I don't speak Gaulish, but it's beautiful and haunting at the same time. So that's good. Good band and good album, and I'm glad you liked it, and hopefully, those of you who are listening to this who haven't heard it, maybe you guys will like it too. Yeah,
definitely. I would recommend checking them out. I mean, like, if you like Celtic music, it's a Swiss folk band. It's amazing to me. It's like mind-boggling that they're able to like sound like that. Like I don't know what music they play in Switzerland, but like to me, it sounded like seriously like soundtrack to Braveheart. Like with growling.
Braveheart with growling.